Okay, guys, I'm here today with Brian Glick. Huge honor for me and Chris. And guys, Brian is here this week shooting entire instructional all about guard passing, and it's gonna be a series. And Brian, this one is all about the standing passes versus the supine guard
position,
which
exactly.
is the
back on the
ground.
floor. Yeah, back on the floor. And you know, this is we talk about this in the video, but the reason that I wanted to start with this is, and I know there have been you know, Gordon and John have done a lot of videos about this general topic, you know, but it's an area that for me was really difficult at the beginning to be able to like enter. There are some things I think in jiu-jitsu, like you probably have had this experience where there are things you naturally just kind of go to.
Yep.
And for me, it was always the guard. Like I just felt more comfortable playing the guard. And so learning how to pass took a lot longer.
Okay.
And I really feel like I didn't totally understand how to pass the guard, like maybe even until black belt. I feel like it was like, it took a really long time. And of course it didn't have to do with like the instruction because, you know, John was teaching everything, and it really was more about like my own, I didn't really like feel like I saw myself as a guard passer. I saw myself as someone who played guard.
Could it be because of your body type, Brian? Because you're like the skinny, flexible type of guy.
I
don't know if you're flexible, but you look like.
It's definitely true. Also, I think like at the beginning, because I was such a I was so much smaller than a lot of the people, and I was much less athletic, that I think that I started trying to play top position, but I was always getting reversed. Like people were always pushing me back. I never felt like I could get close enough. I feel like if I did get close enough, like if I got to a knee cut or I got to like a leg drag, that people were always just kind of like kicking me back and pushing me back. And I ended up being on the bottom most of the time anyway. So what I really wanted to do with this video was kind of like imagine the people who are training, who are kind of in the same position as I was, where it was like, you know, there are things that you want to do that you know you should be able to do, but there's just kind of like a barrier to being able to do them. And so the reason that we started with this standing versus supine is because sometimes like you're standing above someone and their legs are here, and it's almost like you're trying to kind of get through a windmill. You know, there's like a fan going on, they're threatening ashigarami and all of these things, and it can be very intimidating. Yeah. So I think that a big part of what John has done recently has helped to kind of address a lot of the threats that come out of that position. Yeah. And even if you're not like a Gordon type, you're not, you know, kind of a heavyweight guy, and then you're not like maybe like a Dorian type either, where you can just kind of use a lot of movement. Yeah. There are still plenty of things that you can do, and if you understand both like the skills that you need and also the right techniques to try, that it can make a really big difference. That's what I found. So
good. Can you show some examples, Brian?
Yeah, sure, 100%. So for instance, you know, especially for people who have done gi, you know, there are some techniques that work great in the gi that seem like they don't translate as well. And you and I were talking about this a little bit before with the over-under, that there are things you can do, but you always have to modify a little bit. Yeah. And a big reason is because in the gi, when you learn techniques or when techniques are transitioned from gi to no gi, you lose that ability to grip and a lot of the friction.
Yep.
So as a result, transitions tend to happen faster. You have to switch grips. You can't keep the same grip all the time. And one place that you really see this is in like leg drags. So when you do a leg drag in the gi, or when you used to do a leg drag in the gi, it was a lot about physically like moving the leg across the center line. Okay, and so like it looked something like this. So if Chris had me in De La Riva here with a foot posted, then like back in the day, the Mendez brothers were really experts at doing this.
Yep.
They would start in a position like this, they would gather up the fabric down here, and they would use this kind of method of dragging the leg across, and they would end in a position that looked like this, where they had this kind of handle with the pants to be able to drive and keep the leg back. And then the trap is very important, like this connection between, like kind of sandwiching the person's leg between your chest and your leg, like this. But the gi also played a really big role. So when you start to do stuff like that in no gi, you find that it's really difficult to clear a leg and keep it, even if you keep both of your hands here. Like if Chris wants to strip my grip and pummel it, like it's just so slippery and hard to hold. You and I were talking about the over-under position, and one of the things that that came up was like the longer it goes, the longer the round goes, the longer the match goes.
If you get sweat and it becomes butter, it's really hard
like
to keep
Bernardo was saying, like when it feels at like kind of later on in rounds, it feels like you're both covered in butter and the floor is also covered in butter.
Yeah, for no-gi.
For no-gi. And so like in over-under passing, it's hard, and in leg drag, it's the same thing. So the question is like, how do we overcome this problem and take a technique that's actually very, very good and modify it? So the way that we do that is we change the angle, and this comes a lot out of the John and Gordon's approach to passing this sort of guard, which is we don't stay directly in front of our partner. Okay, in the gi, a lot of times you can kind of stay in front of your partner and make small changes. But when we're working no gi and we need to do a leg drag, instead of trying to move our partner's leg, a lot of times the best method is one where we move our own body out to the side. So instead of trying to pull Chris's leg across my hip,
you move your body.
I'm going to move my own body because I can't always move him.
Yeah.
And also, it's I know that even if I pull it across, it's probably not going to stay there.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a better option to move out to the side. And when Chris goes to kind of recover his leg here, just guiding his leg into this position. And so instead of being directly in front of our partner, we have what's basically a leg drag.
Yeah.
We still have the ability to trap our partner's leg a little bit, but we also have the angle that puts us in a place where Chris needs to make, he needs to respond to this. Because we're very close, we're at the hip line, we're getting ready to pass, and so if he doesn't do something, he's going to, not only is he going to have his leg pulled across my body, but he's going to end up getting passed. So once we get to this position, we can reinforce not by holding this leg, but rather by taking our hand and posting it on our partner's knee. So we keep our partner's two legs split. So we can reinforce this not by holding onto it and kind of relying on these grips, but rather keeping our partner's legs split like this. You know, we want to be careful. We don't want to get our arm pulled through. So we'll usually take our hand and put 4 fingers inside like this. And now even as Chris goes to push and kind of post on me and move around, it's relatively easy to move out into positions like these sorts of Toreando spots. And this is a very big topic for John, where you're playing out at this angle off of the hip, and we cover this a lot too.
Right, question for you. And that's where the camping from Gordon comes from as well?
Exactly, yeah. So so the idea, we cover this also because if anyone who's doing jiu-jitsu no-gi now has heard this idea of camping. Yeah.
Which is beautiful.
It's really great. Yeah, it's really great. And the idea is that we get to a place on our partner's, either their hip line or up at their shoulders, where we have an angle. And remember that when you're at an angle to your partner is going to be working a lot harder than if they're just kind of staying right in front of you. So when Chris is here, if he's flat on his back and I'm standing in front of him, this is his guard, but he's not really doing much. He can kind of support himself. He can put his hands on his knees. Even if he's tired, he can rest here. But as soon as we create an angle where we get a grip on our partner, we move out here, and we're at or past the line of our partner's hips. Now, immediately, Chris has to curl his body. He's got to keep his knees inside, so he's working much harder than we are. And it's one thing to pass right from here to a pin. But what the idea of camping is that, what Gordon and John found is that if you just can get yourself into a place where you can prevent 3 big things, then you're going to be... you can be very efficient from that spot, and you can prevent this guy from recovering. So those 3 things, and again, we kind of talk about this in the video, but those 3 things are his elbow and knee connecting on this side. So like if you can keep this separated. If you can prevent him from taking this leg and passing it over the top to the high leg. And then if you can prevent him from squaring his body back up, so like taking his head away from you here, then you're going to be in a place where you can really do a lot of good work. So the idea behind camping is that we create a situation where Chris can't throw his top leg up over the top. He can't bring his elbow and knee together on this side. And then if he tries to misalign and move his head away, we can always run towards it and connect our hip to our partner's hip. So this idea that you can get to a spot on your partner's hip or up at the shoulders and just kind of hang out there makes a big difference. Yeah.
I love the principles. So wait a second. So just connect elbow to knee. Don't let this leg come in. What's the third one again?
The third one is don't let him pull his head back away from you.
Okay.
So like realign his head, you know?
Okay.
And what's interesting is like these sorts of things are like very fundamental principles. Like they show up over and over again in all sorts of guard passes. So if you can get to those places, and if you can get to a place where you can prevent that stuff from happening, and then stay there in a very efficient way, you're gonna really be able to tire the person out and create this work differential.
Yeah. No, the way when I see Gordon competing, for example, it's almost like he positions himself in a way that he's not spending any energy, and the guy on board is like bench pressing like this.
Man,
it's pretty crazy. Like,
it's kind of amazing, and it's horrible to be on the bottom of, even just in training. And you know, what's interesting is you have a similar thing that you do from over under. Because if you get to that over under position and you park yourself there, you don't even need to pass. But the guy has got to boast and resist and all of that stuff. So
I totally agree.
Maybe you're the pioneer here.
Nah, come on.
I'm just saying. I think maybe, you know.
No, that's not the case. But anyways, so guys, Brian this week is showing this entire instructional all about standing pass versus the supine guard, and I think you guys can see like how many principles and concepts he has about this. And this story that you gave, that was fascinating as well, like the fact that you were never the guard passer, and then also learned these things changed it for you.
Made a huge difference.
So guys, make sure to check it out. It's gonna be at bjjfanatics.com, and maybe by the time you're watching, it's already there. Hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Bernardo. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. Please help me out to grow my YouTube channel. Just click subscribe. And to watch more videos, just click under see more videos. I hope you enjoyed.
BJJFanatics.com. Use the promo code YouTube Faria to get 10% off any instructional video. Improve your jiu-jitsu faster.